Welcome to HOA Neighbor Wars. She wanted a scapegoat, and she picked me. Nicole Barrett screamed that I was the only one who benefited, and that was all she needed. She jabbed her finger at my chest hard enough that I took a step back. Her face was red and twisted, and she had that whistle around her neck like she was about to blow it in my face. We were standing in the parking lot behind the clubhouse, and 3 other residents had stopped to stare. "You have one chance to comply before I escalate," she said. Her voice cut through the warm desert air like a siren. "I am the reason this place stays safe." I held up both hands. "I work here," I said. "I am a security guard. I did not clone anything." She pulled out a printed sheet and waved it in my face. "A gate fob was reported missing 2 days ago, and you are the only one with access to the reader logs." She tapped the paper like it was a legal document. "I know what I saw." That was how it started. Las Vegas in late spring, and the sun was brutal at 2 in the afternoon. I had been working for Briarwood Reserve Community Association for 8 months, and I thought I had seen every flavor of HOA insanity. Nicole Barrett was the neighborhood communications lead, and she had a talent for turning minor issues into federal cases. She wore a tan trench coat even when it was 90 degrees, and she carried a stack of identical complaint forms with printed names everywhere she went. The forms had no readable text, but she treated them like arrest warrants. "I need to see that form," I said. She pulled it back. "You do not get to review evidence against you. That is not how this works. I am asking what the complaint actually says." She smiled, but it was not friendly. "It says you tampered with the system and cloned a fob." "I have proof." "What proof?" She tapped her phone. "I have timestamps. I have records. And I have a witness who saw you near the gate reader after hours. That was my job. I patrol after hours." She leaned in close. "I am the one who decides what counts." She said it slowly like she was teaching a child. "And I decide this counts." I felt my jaw tighten. I had a car payment due in 3 days, and I was trying to refinance my place before rates climbed higher. Any kind of lien or fine on my HOA account could wreck the whole deal. I could not afford to let this spiral. "What do you want?" I asked. She straightened up and adjusted her whistle. "Daily fines start tomorrow unless you admit it. $50 a day until you confess and return the fob." "I do not have the fob." "Then the fines start at midnight." She turned and walked toward her car. "I will be filing the paperwork this afternoon." I stood there watching her leave. A neighbor named Doug walked past carrying a bag of groceries, and he gave me a look like he had heard the whole thing. Nicole got in her car and drove off without looking back. I pulled out my phone and checked the time. I had 4 hours before my shift ended, and I needed that car for a medical appointment later that evening. My doctor was across town, and the appointment had been booked for 2 months. Missing it meant starting over. I went back inside the guard shack and pulled up the gate logs on the computer. The system tracked every fob swipe with a timestamp and a unit number. I scrolled back 2 days and checked the entries. Nothing unusual. No duplicate swipes. No anomalies. If someone had cloned a fob, it would show up as 2 swipes with the same ID and impossible time frames. I printed the log and tucked it into my jacket pocket. Then I called the management office and asked for Denise. She was the property manager, and she had always been fair with me. Denise picked up on the 3rd ring. "This is Denise." "Hey, it is me. I just had a run-in with Nicole Barrett in the parking lot. She is accusing me of cloning a gate fob." There was a pause. "She mentioned that this morning. She said she was going to file a formal complaint." "Did she show you any proof?" She showed me a printed version of the gate logs, but it looked edited. The timestamps did not match the format our system uses. I felt a spark of hope. So she faked it? Denise sighed. I cannot say that for sure. But I told her I needed to see the original file before I could process any fines. She got upset and said I was protecting you. What do I do? Gather your own evidence. If you can show the logs are clean, you will be fine. But Nicole has a lot of pull with the board, and she is already talking about escalating this to a vendor review. What does that mean? It means she wants to get you removed from the contract. The HOA does not employ you directly. They contract with your security company. If she convinces the board that you are a liability, they can request a replacement. I felt my stomach drop. That would cost me my job. Exactly. So document everything. And do not engage with her unless there are witnesses. I hung up and sat there for a minute. The guard shack was small and hot, and I could hear the hum of the air conditioning struggling to keep up. Outside the gate, a delivery truck pulled up and I buzzed it through. The driver waved, and I waved back. I thought about the timeline. 2 days ago, I had been on shift from 6 in the evening until 2 in the morning. I had done 3 perimeter checks and logged every gate opening. If Nicole was claiming I cloned a fob during that window, she was lying. But proving it meant finding something she could not explain away. I checked the camera footage next. The guard shack had a view of the main gate and the entrance to the clubhouse. I scrubbed back to the time frame Nicole mentioned and watched the playback. Nothing. No one approached the reader. No one loitered near the gate. I saved the clip to a thumb drive and labeled it with the date. Then I remembered something. The management office had sent me contradictory instructions last week about gate access for a moving truck. They told me to let the truck in without a fob, and then the next day, they sent an email saying I should have required a temporary pass. It felt like a trap, and now I wondered if Nicole had been involved. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. It was a photo. Blurry and taken from a distance. It showed someone standing near the clubhouse door at night. The person was wearing a jacket similar to mine. The timestamp in the corner said it was from 2 nights ago. The text below the photo said, "This is you. Admit it, or I go to the board tomorrow." I stared at the photo. The quality was terrible. The face was not visible. The jacket could have been anyone. But Nicole was using it as her smoking gun. I texted back, "That is not me. Send the full resolution version." 3 dots appeared. Then, you do not get to make demands. I am asking for basic fairness. The dots again. Then, fairness is what I say it is. I put the phone down and rubbed my eyes. This was going to get worse before it got better. The next morning I showed up for my shift and found a printed notice taped to the guard shack door. It was on HOA letterhead, and it said I was being placed on paid administrative leave, pending an investigation into theft and misuse of access credentials. The notice was signed by Nicole Barrett as Neighborhood Communications Lead. I pulled the notice down and called Denise. She answered on the first ring. "Did you authorize this?" I asked. "No. Nicole printed it herself this morning. She does not have the authority to suspend you, but she is acting like she does." What do I do? Come to the management office. We need to talk. I drove over and parked in the visitor lot. The management office was a small building near the front gate, and it had a waiting area with cheap chairs and a water cooler. Denise met me at the door and waved me inside. She led me to her office and closed the door. "Sit down." I sat. She looked tired. "Nicole is out of control," she said. "She spent an hour here yesterday trying to convince me to terminate your contract. She brought printouts and photos and a whole binder of complaints." "What kind of complaints?" Everything. She claims you are rude to residents. She claims you let unauthorized vehicles through the gate. She claims you tampered with the access logs. None of it is substantiated, but she is relentless. Did she show you the photo she sent me? Denise nodded. She did. And I told her it proves nothing. The resolution is too low, and the person in the photo could be anyone. So why is she pushing this? Denise leaned back in her chair. I think she is covering for someone. About a week ago, there were reports of packages going missing from the mailbox cluster. Then someone reported a charity lockbox stolen from a table in the clubhouse. Nicole was the one who organized the charity drive. You think she took it? I think she is deflecting. If she can pin the thefts on you, she avoids scrutiny. I felt a cold knot in my stomach. How much was in the lockbox? About $200 in cash and checks. It was supposed to go to a local animal shelter. So she is framing me for theft to cover her own theft. Denise nodded. That is my theory. But I cannot prove it, and the board listens to her. What do I need to prove? You need to show she is lying about the fob, and you need to find evidence that she took the lockbox. If you can do both, the board will have no choice but to remove her. I stood up. How much time do I have? She is calling an emergency board meeting for tomorrow night. If she convinces them to terminate the contract, your company will pull you out by the end of the week. I left the office and sat in my car. The sun was climbing, and the heat was already oppressive. I had less than 24 hours to gather proof and clear my name. I started with the mailbox cluster. It was near the front gate, and it had a camera mounted on a pole nearby. I drove over and checked the angle. The camera covered the parking area, but not the mailboxes themselves. Useless. Then I walked around the clubhouse. There were 2 entrances, and both had cameras. I checked the coverage and found a blind spot near the side door. If someone wanted to move something out of the clubhouse without being seen, that would be the route. I went back to the guard shack and pulled up the camera footage for the night the lockbox went missing. I scrubbed through hours of playback and found nothing. Then I checked the access logs. The side door required a key, and only a few people had one. Nicole was on the list. I made a note and kept digging. Around midnight, I found something. The footage showed Nicole entering the clubhouse through the front door at 8 in the evening. She was carrying a large tote bag. She left 20 minutes later, and the bag looked heavier. She walked quickly and kept her head down. I saved the clip and made a backup. Then I checked the charity event schedule. The lockbox had been reported missing the next morning. The timeline fit. I texted Denise. I have footage of Nicole leaving the clubhouse with a heavy bag the night before the lockbox was reported missing. She replied immediately. Send it to me. And meet me at the office in an hour. I drove over and found her waiting. She had the footage pulled up on her laptop when I walked in. This is good, she said. But it is not definitive. She could claim the bag was full of anything. What else do I need? We need to find the lockbox. Or we need a witness who saw her take it. I thought about it. Do you have access to her complaints file? Denise opened a drawer and pulled out a thick binder. This is everything she has filed in the past year. I flipped through it, page after page of complaints. Most of them were about minor violations. Trash cans left out, cars parked crooked, holiday decorations up too early. But near the back I found something interesting. A complaint she filed about herself. It was dated the same week the lockbox went missing, and it claimed someone had broken into her storage unit in the clubhouse. Why would she file a complaint about her own storage unit? Denise leaned over and read the page. She is creating a cover story. If anyone asks why she was in the clubhouse that night, she can say she was checking on her unit. I took a photo of the complaint form. Then I flipped to the next page. It was a receipt for a new lock. The receipt was from a hardware store, and it was dated 2 days after the lockbox went missing. Why would she need a new lock if nothing was stolen? Denise smiled. Because she needed to hide something. We drove to the clubhouse, and Denise used her master key to open the storage area. It was a narrow hallway lined with metal cages. Each unit had a padlock. We walked to Nicole's unit, and Denise pointed at the lock. This is new. Can you open it? Not without a warrant or her permission. I looked through the gaps in the cage. Inside I could see boxes and plastic bins. One of the bins had a strip of duct tape on the lid. I took a photo. We need to call the police, I said. Denise shook her head. Not yet. If we call them now and they do not find anything, we lose all credibility. We need more. I stood up and thought about the timeline. The charity event had been organized by Nicole. She had set up the table. She had collected the donations. She had been the last person to lock up the clubhouse that night. If I could find someone who saw her acting suspicious, I would have a witness. I spent the rest of the afternoon knocking on doors. Most people were not home. The ones who answered did not remember anything useful. I was about to give up when I knocked on the door of a unit near the clubhouse. A man in his 60s answered. His name was Carl, and he had lived in Briarwood Reserve for 12 years. I am trying to find out what happened to the charity lockbox, I said. Carl frowned. That was a shame. I donated $20. Did you see anything unusual that night? He thought about it. I saw Nicole leave the clubhouse with a bag. I remember because she was in a hurry and she almost knocked over a trash can. What time was that? Around 8:30. I was taking my dog out. Did you see what was in the bag? No. But it looked heavy. She was struggling to carry it. I thanked him and left. I called Denise and told her what Carl said. That is enough, she said. I am calling an emergency meeting with the board president. The meeting was set for that evening. I showed up at the clubhouse at 7 and found Denise waiting outside with the board president. His name was Tom, and he was a retired engineer. He did not like drama. Denise and I laid out everything. The footage, the complaint form, the receipt, Carl's statement. Tom listened without interrupting. When we finished, he nodded. This is serious. If Nicole stole that money, she needs to be removed immediately. What about the fob accusation? I asked. Tom pulled out his phone and opened an email. Nicole sent this to the board yesterday. It is her version of the gate logs. He turned the screen toward me. The timestamps are wrong. This is not from our system. So she faked it. Yes. And that means she is lying about the fob too. Tom stood up. I am calling a vote tonight. We are removing Nicole from her position, and we are terminating the vendor contract she has been abusing. What vendor contract? Tom smiled. Nicole has been using a tow company to harass residents she does not like. She tells them there are violations and they tow cars without verifying. The HOA gets billed and she gets a kickback. It is fraud. The board met that night and I was allowed to sit in. Nicole showed up 10 minutes late. She walked in carrying her stack of complaint forms and her whistle. She looked confident. Tom called the meeting to order. We are here to discuss the accusations made by Nicole Barrett against one of our security contractors. Nicole stood up. I have proof that he cloned a gate fob and stole from the clubhouse. I demand immediate termination. Tom held up his hand. We have reviewed your evidence and it does not hold up. The gate logs you submitted are fake. The photo you sent is too blurry to be useful. And we have footage of you leaving the clubhouse with a heavy bag the night the lockbox went missing." Nicole's face went white. "That is absurd." Tom played the footage on a laptop. The room went silent. Nicole watched herself on screen carrying the tote bag. She opened her mouth and closed it. "We also have a witness who saw you struggling with the bag," Tom said. "And we have a receipt showing you bought a new lock for your storage unit 2 days later." Nicole stood up. "This is a setup. You are all conspiring against me." Tom leaned forward. "We are removing you from your position effective immediately. And we are referring this matter to the police." Nicole grabbed her complaint forms and threw them on the table. "I am the reason this place stays safe. Without me, you will all fall apart." One of the other board members, a woman named Diane, shook her head. "You are the reason people are afraid to check their mail." Nicole turned and stormed out. The door slammed behind her. Tom looked at me. "You are cleared of all accusations. Your contract is safe." If you are enjoying this, hit that subscribe button for more wild HOA revenge stories. I left the meeting and drove home. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Denise. "Police are executing a search warrant on Nicole's storage unit tomorrow morning. Do you want to be there?" I replied, "Yes." The next morning, I met Denise and 2 officers at the clubhouse. They cut the lock on Nicole's unit and opened the door. Inside, they found the charity lockbox hidden under a blanket. It still had cash inside. They also found 3 unopened packages addressed to other residents and a box full of gate fobs. One of the officers held up a fob. "This one has your name on it." I stared at it. "That is the fob I reported missing last month." The officer nodded. She was collecting them, probably planning to sell them or use them to frame people. They arrested Nicole that afternoon. She was charged with theft and fraud. The HOA terminated the vendor contract she had been abusing, and the tow company lost its contract. A policy clarification was issued stating that no single board member could authorize fines or suspensions without a full board vote. I went back to work the next day. Doug stopped by the guard shack and handed me a coffee. "Heard you took down Nicole." "I just proved I did not steal anything." He grinned. "Everyone knows she was dirty. You did us all a favor." A week later, I got a call from Denise. "The HOA is issuing a formal apology, and they are reimbursing you for the stress." "I do not need the money." "Take it anyway. You earned it." The fallout lasted for weeks. Nicole tried to fight the charges, but the evidence was overwhelming. The doorbell replay scene happened during a board meeting when Tom played the clubhouse footage in front of every homeowner who showed up. Nicole tried to claim the video was edited, but a tech-savvy resident pointed out the metadata matched the original file. She left in shame. The security camera blind spot argument scene happened when Nicole's lawyer tried to claim she could not have taken the lockbox because there were cameras everywhere. I pulled up the coverage map and showed the blind spot near the side door. Her lawyer went quiet. The twist came during the police investigation. The lockbox had never been truly missing in the traditional sense. Nicole had moved it to her storage unit the same night to create panic and blame me. She planned to return it quietly after I was fired and claimed she found it during a cleanup. But she forgot about the cameras. The final humiliation moment happened in the management company lobby. Nicole showed up to argue her case one last time. She stood in front of Denise and repeated her catchphrase. "I am the one who decides what counts." A security guard who had been standing nearby, a guy named Marcus, turned and looked at her. He said the same words back to her slowly. "I am the one who decides what counts." Then he laughed. "Not anymore." Nicole left and never came back. The HOA terminated the vendor contract Karen abused, and the tow company lost its exclusive deal. They had been towing cars based solely on Nicole's word and billing the HOA for every call. The new policy required photographic proof and a 48-hour notice before any tow. Residents stopped living in fear of coming home to an empty parking spot. Karen's staged evidence got used against her during the trial. The prosecutor showed the blurry photo she sent me and then showed the high-resolution version pulled from her phone. The full image clearly showed the person in the photo was not me. It was her nephew who had been visiting that week. She had cropped the face out and tried to pass it off as me. The jury convicted her in less than 2 hours. A policy clarification that destroys Karen's favorite tactic was issued at the next board meeting. No single board member could investigate, accuse, fine, or suspend anyone without a majority vote. The rule was named after me as a joke, but it stuck. I kept working at Briarwood Reserve. The new communications lead was a retired teacher named Linda, who believed in following the actual rules instead of making them up. She never carried a whistle. The clue props came back to haunt Nicole during discovery. The receipt and return slip held up with everything blurred became Exhibit A when the prosecutor showed she had bought the tote bag the same week as the theft. She claimed she needed it for groceries, but the receipt timestamp put her at the store 2 hours before the charity event started. The key ring held up for counting in comparison showed she had duplicates of access keys she was not authorized to have. One of them opened the side door to the clubhouse. The extra witness who helped me the most was Marcus, the security guard who told Karen she could not order people around. He had been working the day shift when Nicole tried to get me trespassed from the management office waiting area. She walked in and demanded Denise ban me from the property. Marcus stepped in and said she did not have the authority. She tried to pull rank, and he laughed at her. His statement to the police was detailed and damning. The funny karma beat happened when Nicole threatened to call police during one of her final meltdowns. She stood in the parking lot screaming at Denise and waving her complaint forms. A deputy had been called by a neighbor who heard the noise. He pulled up and calmly told Nicole to stop yelling. She turned her rage on him, and he cited her for disturbing the peace. She tried to argue, and he added another charge for obstruction. She paid over $300 in fines. The refinance went through. I closed 2 weeks after Nicole was arrested. The lien threat never materialized, and my credit stayed clean. The medical appointment I almost missed turned into a routine checkup with good results. Life went back to normal. I still see the stack of identical complaint forms with printed names in my memory. Nicole carried them everywhere like they were legal documents, but they were just photocopies she made at home. She thought volume equaled authority. She was wrong. The doorbell camera footage became a running joke. Every time someone mentioned Nicole at a board meeting, someone would bring up the clip of her struggling with the tote bag. It played at the annual meeting as part of a transparency presentation. The room laughed. I kept the thumb drive with all the evidence in my desk drawer. I never needed it again, but I liked having it. Proof that the truth wins if you fight for it. The neighborhood settled into a rhythm. The new board was boring in the best way. They fixed potholes and updated the landscaping and did not harass anyone. Residents started showing up to meetings again because they were not afraid of being ambushed. I ran into Carl one afternoon while doing a perimeter check. He was walking his dog, and he waved me over. "Heard they convicted her," he said. "Yeah. She got 2 years. Good. She needed to learn." I nodded. "Thanks for talking to me that day. Your statement helped." He shrugged. "I just told the truth." The case became a cautionary tale in local HOA circles. Management companies used it in training sessions to show what happens when board members go rogue. Nicole's name became shorthand for petty tyrant behavior. No one wanted to be the next Nicole Barrett. I eventually moved to a different property, better pay and closer to family. But I kept in touch with Denise and she sent me updates. The HOA was thriving. Resale values were up. People were not afraid to use the clubhouse anymore. The stolen charity lockbox was returned to the animal shelter with the full amount plus interest donated by the HOA as an apology. The shelter sent a thank you letter that was posted in the clubhouse lobby. It stayed up for months. I think about that day in the parking lot sometimes. Nicole jabbing her finger at me and saying I was the only one who benefited. She was so sure of herself, so confident that her authority was real. She learned the hard way that authority without accountability is just bullying. And bullies always lose in the end. The policy changes stuck. The new rules protected residents and contractors alike. No one could be accused without evidence. No one could be fined without a vote. No one could be trespassed without due process. It was boring and fair, and exactly what an HOA should be. I appreciate you supporting the channel.